always save. Save early, save often. Can never go wrong there.
And then would I export?
Okay, so potentially. So hang on before you do that. So
Create direct. No.
No. You were right the first time. Export document, but before we do that, again, if you want imposition built into this, you need to do all that before you export. If you're not worried about imposition at all, then you're absolutely right. Just go ahead to direct small document and then do our export. So was that say yes? Say yes. Now, let's talk about the missing font thing real quickly before we go. Oh, actually, hit cancel. Hit cancel. I did not confirm one thing, and we don't need to export until we confirm that. So go ahead and hit cancel for a second. Okay. Hit cancel. All right. And so here's the thing I wanted to confirm, and we hadn't done it, so that's good. That we canceled. Okay. So remember, I told you that all your variables need to be in a variable folder, or they're going to fail once it gets to the digital storefront. Okay. So before we get to that export, and we want to get to let's get it to digital storefront real fast. Remember that in the bridge, you see where it says variables from the document. In the bridge, that's the bottom piece. You see where it says underneath the variables tab, it says variables from the document in kind of a light bluish color.
Yep.
Right click on that guy. And let's add variable group. And we rename that group to DSF, right? Remember that step?
I did not remember that step.
Okay. So what would have happened if you hadn't remembered that, and we called it DSF last time, it could be called anything, it doesn't have to be called DSF, but I just like to kind of associate it with that. Just change the group name. So what would happen is, if you hadn't done that step, one of two things would happen. First, sometimes the program in Digital Storefront, when you try to import it, says, hey, you didn't do something right, and it stops you right there. That's the better option. Sometimes it lets you go through, and then you get a bunch of variables that are starting with XTDI, which basically tells you, hey, you're host. So if you go any further, then it looks like it works, but you just get error message, error. So what we want to do is we want to create this variable document folder, and we want to move all of our variables in there. Now, I don't necessarily want my rules. I just want all the regular variables.
Okay, I'm starting to remember this now. Okay, so in Bridge, we right-click, and then we add a variable group.
Yep, correct. We renamed it. And again, could have been called whatever, but I just like to kind of associate DSF.
Because that's where it's going. So that makes sense.
So if I don't see DSF there, then it's not really ready to go to DSF in my mind.
So now we have to drag and drop, right?
Yeah, then we just drag each of the variables over into that folder, minus the address rule and the phone rule.
One by one, right? I remember this.
Yeah, exactly right. You can't do the top one and the bottom one and grab all of them in between. You can do the control and grab all of them, one at a time and then drag them. But yeah, one at a time is just as fast.
So I can do this and then drag it?
Yep, you can do that if you want. Now, because you already kind of had some of this stuff a little bit pre-built before I got here, do me a favor and click on Address Rule, right-click on it, and go to Properties. All right, and you did do the 2-cycle, which is great. Let's check the same thing for phone rule.
Okay.
Proud moment.
Yeah.
That sneaks in there, but you got that. That's great. So let's go ahead and just rebuild, save, and then we'll export. fonts are concerned, I told you guys that basically they will inherit from whatever you put on the document, assuming that within your actual Windows font folder, the folder license says installable or editable, right?
And we had a problem with that, but I got a new font that is editable.
Okay, so if you ever bump into that, if you say, oh, hey, it looks great on this side of the house, but I get to the digital storefront and it doesn't work, that is pretty much 95% of the time that's the issue.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go ahead and we want to change our PDF version from 1.3 to 1.4 because Adobe's made some modifications in between those two versions. And we're going to go ahead and click on Export All Fixed Parts.
And then export the rating.
Okay, now I like to include, in this case, when I'm looking at the screen like this, I include my font, include my Adobe InDesign document, include my elements, include my directional job file. So that would be normally, those are the standards. Okay. With that, if I pass that, with the zip file, I can pass that over to support, and if I got a problem, they can look at my file. They've got, all my things that they would need to kind of check this out.
Right.
But in addition to that, you've got a links folder. So you see where it says list of additional export folders? Well, because you have that links folder in your main asset folder, it's showing up here. Okay, that's one of the reasons why I tell everybody to create, a separate folder for each project. Because otherwise, all of the folders are here, and you can't figure out which ones are which. Right?
Right.
So because it's in its own asset folder, we're going to assume that these links are associated with that. And so if it's not too big, I'll go ahead and include that too.
Okay, yeah, 'cause that's just the shell.
Yeah, that way, like I said, it doesn't really matter to digital storefront. However, in regards to, somebody being able to assist you with troubleshooting or something like that, they may need those. So, if it doesn't make my file too big, I'll come back and I'll do that. So now let's go ahead and export.
Okay.
And we want to save it to our folder, our asset folder, which that's where we are, I think.
Okay. Beautiful. All right.
Okay, now we can shut this guy down. So, remember our path for shutting down?